Now in example 3, it says solve the following inequalities algebraically. And the reason we have that in there is because I'm not given all of my information when it comes to this graph. I can see that I do have a vertical asymptote that's going to go right here, but I don't know where that is. I can see that I have one x-intercept right here, but I don't know where that is. So we do have to find those two values algebraically. So if I start with zeros, to find our zeros, you take the numerator and set it to equal 0. So here, we'll add that over, and we get x equals 1. So we have a 0 at the ordered pair, 1 comma 0. So that is where this is. Okay, now if we want to find our vertical asymptotes, we take the numerator and set it equal to 0. So we'll subtract that over, and we get x equals -8. So that is where this line right here is crossing. So I'm going to put some dashed lines here. And I will label that as x equals -8. So I have now found my key things in here algebraically. Now we can go about solving the problem. It tells me that it wants to know when this rational function is less than 0. So where are my y values less than 0? And that's everything here below that x axis. So we are talking about all of that right there. So my answer then, I only have this one little spot that is below that x-axis that has a y value that is a negative. So we're going to go from -8 to 1. Okay, and so the questions are brackets or parentheses. Well, the x-intercept's easy because it's less than 0 and not less than or equal to. We know that 1 is not included, so that's a parenthesis. Anytime we have something approaching an asymptote, whether this is less than or equal to, that will always be a parenthesis because it's going to approach it but never touch it, so it's not including it. So this is my answer of that inequality. So you guys pause the video and you guys try B for me, please. This is your last chance to pause the video to try this one on your own. When you look at this picture, you can see that we do have two x-intercepts and we do have one vertical asymptote that's going through here. Those are the two things we need. So first thing I'm going to start with are my zeros. To find the zeros, you take the numerator and set that to equal 0. Now, this one's really nice for us because this is already in factored form. So here I'm going to get x equals 4. So we're looking for ordered pairs here since we're talking about zeros or x-intercepts. And so that is at 4, 0. And then this one, we subtract that 9 over to get x equals -9. So that x-intercept or 0 is -9, 0. So I know this point here is at -9 and this point here is at 4. Okay, next thing we're going to do is find our vertical asymptotes. And to find our vertical asymptotes, you take whatever the denominator is. In this case, it's just 0 and set it equal to 0. Or sorry, it's just x and set that equal to 0. So there's nothing to do there. That is my vertical asymptote. So my vertical asymptote is this y-axis right here. Okay, so I have all my key information. We have our x-intercepts or zeros, and we have our vertical asymptotes. So this one, we want to know when this graph is less than or equal to 0. So we are again talking about what is below the x-axis here. And because it's or equals to, this time we are including the x-axis. Okay, so remember this is going to keep going forever. So when I talk about this little bit right here, it's going from negative infinity, which is always a parenthesis, to -9. And because -9 is on that x-axis, and we're talking about what is less than or equal to 0, it is included. So we'll put a bracket. And then the union. Now I'm going to talk about this little part right here. So this one is going to go forever in that direction, but it's going to keep getting tighter and tighter and hugging that vertical asymptote at y equals 0. So we're going to do parentheses 0. Anytime it is approaching an asymptote, it is always parentheses. It has nothing to do with this or equals to. Okay, and then it's going to keep going, and then it will stop right there at 4. And because that is in 0 or an x-intercept, that is included. That is my answer right there. For my on-campus students specifically, this is what your test question is going to look like over rational inequalities. I'm going to give you this graph, but I'm not going to tell you where your zeros are, and I'm not going to tell you where your vertical asymptote is. So you will need to be able to find them. Very, very easy to find the 0, set the numerator equal to 0, to find the vertical asymptote, set the denominator equal to 0. You just have to know which is which.